What if the greatest act of love in a relationship isn't holding on tighter, but having the profound wisdom to let go? An ancient Zen teaching holds the key to understanding when a connection has served its sacred purpose. Today, we will learn to read its 6 quiet, undeniable signs. Have you ever found yourself in a relationship that looks right on the surface, but feels deeply, inexplicably lonely on the inside? You are not imagining it. It is one of 6 profound signs that 2 souls may have met to teach, not to stay for a lifetime. Let's explore this difficult but liberating truth together. Imagine every relationship is a path. Some are meant to be walked together for a lifetime, merging into one, but others are only meant to cross, to exchange a sacred lesson, and then gracefully diverge. The universe leaves subtle signs to tell you when your paths are separating. Today, we learn to see them. That which comes, let it come. That which goes, let it go. What remains, let it be. This ancient Zen teaching captures the very essence of all human relationships: impermanent, transient, and often misunderstood as a game of fate, when in truth, they are profound tests of our attachment. So many of us spend years, even decades, drowning in the turbulent storms of attachment, desperately trying to build a fortress of permanence on the shifting sands of an impermanent connection. But the wise do not force. The wise observe. The wise read the signs. The wise, with courage and grace, let go. The beautiful illusion that 2 people are destined to be together forever is often rooted in a deep, universal longing for stability, love, and security, but not every powerful connection is written in the karma of forever. Sometimes, 2 souls meet not to build a home together, but to hold up a mirror to one another. And the lesson reflected in that mirror may be one of suffering, of silence, or of solitude, but it is still and always sacred. The Buddha once taught that attachment is the root of all suffering. And so often, in trying to desperately keep someone who is not aligned with your true path, you begin to stray from your own. True, lasting peace comes not from clinging tighter, but from seeing with clarity the subtle signs that show when a shared path has reached its natural, graceful end. And so, let us begin our journey into this quiet story, a silent journey where awareness unfolds not through loud, dramatic declarations, but through gentle, undeniable signs that echo the soul's deepest truth. If you were not truly meant to be together, you will see these signs. The story began with an arrival without harmony. He came into her life like a sudden change of season, unexpected, yet strangely familiar. She responded like the earth itself, open, welcoming, and beautifully unsure of what would follow. In the beginning, it felt as though the universe had orchestrated something divine. Words flowed between them like rivers. Their eyes spoke entire conversations without a single sentence. Their shared presence felt sacred. Yet, even beneath the breathtaking beauty of that first bloom, something essential was missing. It wasn't absent in the grand gestures or the daily actions, but in the very essence of their connection. There was no true stillness. The silence that fell between them was not peaceful. It was hollow. Their conversations, though frequent, seemed to dance around true understanding, and each shared laugh carried a faint, almost imperceptible whisper of loneliness. 1. The silence feels empty, not full. Zen teaches that the truest connection between two souls is known not in their words, but in the quality of the silence that surrounds them. When two people are meant to walk a long path together, their shared silence feels like coming home. It is soft, nourishing, and deeply restful. But when two are misaligned, that same silence becomes noisy with unspoken anxiety and quiet tension. You can be sitting right beside them, yet you wonder if you have ever felt more alone. She began to notice this ache. Even in their deepest conversations, she felt profoundly unheard, not because he wasn't physically listening, but because his spirit couldn't see her essence. The soul can always sense when it is standing in front of someone who doesn't truly see it. And the Dharma whispers a gentle warning. If you are forcing a connection, you are breaking your own peace. 2. Time exposes what chemistry concealed. In Zen, it is said that when the intoxicating fog of initial passion begins to fade, the quiet voice of truth begins to speak. And so it was for them. The days turned into months, and a comfortable familiarity grew between them. Yet, instead of blossoming into a deeper unity, it revealed a growing misalignment. What was once accepted as a charming difference now became a source of conflict. What once felt like a loving compromise now felt like a painful sacrifice. The effort feels like a struggle, not devotion. When you are meant to walk together, the effort you put forth feels natural. Like breathing, you give not to earn their love, but because love simply flows from your being. But in misaligned unions, effort becomes a constant, exhausting transaction. You give, and a part of you keeps score. You adjust, and you feel a small piece of your own soul chip away. You suppress your truth and feel utterly unseen. He asked her to change in small ways that made her spirit shrink. She asked for understanding and received cold logic instead of warm empathy. Their arguments became predictable patterns, and their resolutions were merely brief pauses before the next conflict. And yet, she clung to the idea of them. Here, Zen urges stillness. Do not hold on to the beautiful image of what something could be. If it brings you suffering in what it is, the mirror of the present moment always reveals enough truth. One evening, she sat in front of him, watching as his eyes drifted past her, his gaze landing somewhere over her shoulder, on a future she was clearly not a part of. He wasn't physically absent, but his presence had thinned to a ghost. Words were spoken, but their meaning was missing. He asked about her day out of duty. She smiled out of habit. Free, you feel more lonely with them than without them. Buddhism teaches that true loneliness is not the absence of people, but the absence of genuine connection. You can be in a crowded room and still feel utterly forsaken. And sometimes, being with the wrong person deepens that feeling of isolation more than solitude ever could. She started to notice that her own laughter was now louder, more genuine, in his absence. Her peace felt more consistent and grounded when he was far away. And when she cried, she stopped expecting comfort from him, because she knew, on a soul level, that it would not come in the way she needed, Zen asks a piercing question: if their presence adds weight to your spirit, why are you so afraid of their absence? The voice of the soul knows the answer long before the mind is ready to accept it. One night, in meditation, she breathed deeply, letting the clutter of her thoughts dissolve, and in the profound stillness that followed, a question arose, not in language, but in pure emotion. Why are you trying so hard to stay in a place that no longer breathes life into you? For your inner voice begins to speak louder than their words. In relationships that are misaligned with your path, your inner voice, your intuition, gets louder, not quieter. It questions more. It mourns silently in the quiet moments. It becomes restless, and when that voice arises with such persistence, it is not a sign of confusion. It is clarity, desperately trying to break through the layers of your attachment. She sat in that quiet awareness, and she saw it all with painful clarity: how she had ignored her own intuition, how she had mistaken the comfort of familiarity for the presence of love, how she had feared the unknown of starting over more than she feared the slow death of staying in something untrue. Zen reflects that the first betrayal is never from the other person. It is from the self that chooses to stay in what it knows is wrong. She began to notice something even deeper. He had stopped trying, not out of cruelty, but because his soul sensed the truth. Too, they were both rowing the same boat but in completely different directions. And the current between them was one of resistance, not flow. 5. One of you stops participating emotionally. In the Dharma, a true connection is described as mutual, energetic giving. It is not always equal, but it is always shared. When one person becomes the sole gardener and the other only shows up to receive the blooms, the balance collapses, and the garden begins to wither. He no longer asked her deep questions. She no longer expected him to. He no longer held space for her emotional storms. She no longer felt safe enough to share them. The vibrant bond between them had thinned into a transparent routine. They were now merely actors, playing roles in a script they no longer believed in. And then, she realized a devastating truth. If I left today, he would not chase, and if he left, I would not beg. Zen says, when you must convince someone to stay, they have already gone. The end of their story didn't come with a dramatic fight. It arrived in the quietest way imaginable. It came on a morning when she looked at him across the room and felt nothing but a profound sense of peace. Not the peace of reunion, but the deep, soul-settling peace of release. There was no blame, no bitterness, just a quiet, crystalline understanding. 6. You finally feel peace at the thought of letting go. This is the truest, most definitive sign of all. Not anger, not sadness, but a calm acceptance. The storm of emotions finally ends. The mind no longer torments itself with, what if? The heart no longer pleads, please stay. Only clarity remains. Zen reminds us, enlightenment is the moment you no longer need him to be yours in order to feel whole. She left not because she hated him, but because she finally loved herself enough to stop her own suffering. And in walking away, she didn't break the bond between them, she completed it. So, What do these signs truly mean? They are not punishments or tragedies. They are the Dharma in motion. Every misaligned connection is a sacred mirror, revealing our deepest wounds, our greatest fears, and our hidden strengths. When we refuse to look in the mirror, we suffer, but when we accept what it shows us, we grow. To be not meant to be together does not mean you have failed. It means you have graduated. The lesson is complete. Your soul is now ready for its next chapter. Zen does not teach attachment. It teaches presence. And in pure presence, you see things exactly as they are, not as you wish them to be. So when you notice that the silence feels hollow, that effort feels like a sacrifice, that their presence deepens your loneliness, that your inner voice grows louder, that they've emotionally withdrawn, and that you finally feel peace in letting go, know this: it is not the death of love. It is the birth of your own truth, and in that truth there is always and forever liberation. We have journeyed through the 6 quiet signs that our path has reached its end. But now we must go deeper into the very first and most telling of them all, the nature of silence. For the silence between 2 people holds a universe of truth, and learning to listen to it is one of the most profound spiritual practices of all. We have journeyed through the 6 quiet signs that our path has reached its end. But now, as promised, we must go deeper into the very first and most telling of them all, the nature of silence. For in Zen, the greatest measure of harmony is found not in how well 2 people speak, but in how beautifully they can exist in silence together. Imagine a pristine, calm mountain lake. In a true and aligned connection, the silence between you is like this lake. It is sacred. Still water, it reflects peace, comfort, and a deep, mutual understanding that transcends words. But when the silence between you becomes restless, awkward, or heavy with unspoken tension, it signals a fundamental misalignment of spirits. The water has become murky. Ask yourself this profound question: can you sit in complete stillness with them and feel more understood than when you are speaking? If the answer is no, then the silence is no longer a sacred sanctuary. It has become a quiet cry for help, a clear indicator that the depth of soul contact has never truly been made. So when the silence feels like an empty void instead of a warm embrace, do not rush to fill it with nervous words. Observe it. Listen to what your heart says in that stillness. If it trembles, if it feels unseen, then you must ask, why am I choosing to stay in a place that cannot even hold my silence? True peace and love are not found in constant conversation, but in the effortless comfort of silent companionship. If even your quietest self is misunderstood, how then can your greatest emotional storms ever hope to be held? This leads us to the next truth. When love becomes laborious, when the connection starts to feel less like a dance and more like a full-time job, love is no longer growing. It is merely enduring. In Buddhist practice, right effort is one of the pillars of the Noble Eightfold Path. It teaches us to exert our energy in ways that reduce suffering, not increase it. When a relationship demands that you constantly fix, prove, beg, or shrink yourself to fit, You are exerting an effort that is rooted not in compassion, but in fear, love that requires you to abandon your core values to please another is not love, it is dependency. The Dharma does not ask you to fight an endless battle to maintain an attachment. It asks you to have the wisdom to let go of your own suffering. If the immense effort you give never brings lasting peace, but only temporarily prevents the next wave of chaos, it is not a union, it is a struggle. You were not meant to lose yourself in another to find love. You were meant to find someone who helps you become more of yourself, not less. So when love becomes laborious, pause and reflect. Is this the kind of work that nourishes my soul, or is it draining my very spirit? This brings us to the paradox of presence and loneliness. Loneliness is not cured by mere physical proximity. It is cured by genuine soul connection. Zen monks meditate in solitude not because they fear others, but because it is in that deep solitude that they meet their truest self. And yet, paradoxically, one of the greatest and most painful forms of loneliness is not being physically alone. It is being emotionally neglected while in someone else's company. When you feel more emotionally alive, more seen, or more at peace when the person is not around, your body, in its infinite wisdom, is giving you a sacred sign. It is casting a vote. It is choosing the freedom of authentic solitude over the prison of a false belonging. You may sleep beside someone every night and feel as though you are in a different universe. You may walk side by side, but inwardly feel like you're walking completely alone. These are not illusions, these are revelations. In Buddhism, the practice of sati, or mindfulness, teaches you to be aware of the truth exactly as it is, not as you wish it to be. If your truth is that their presence isolates you more than their absence ever could, then your soul's path is already pointing in a different direction. Loneliness is healed not by simply having someone, but by being with someone who truly feels you. If they cannot feel your heart when it is open and joyful, then they will never be able to hold your soul when it is breaking. And through all of this, the voice within will not lie. The most sacred and trustworthy teacher you will ever have lies within your own chest. It is that quiet, knowing voice that never wavers. Zen teaches that intuition is not magic or some unsolvable mystery. It is the accumulated wisdom of your spirit, refined by countless moments of awareness. And when that voice begins to grow louder and more persistent than the words of the one you love, it is time to pay reverent attention. That voice may begin as a whisper. It might say, "This doesn't feel right," or "You are not being seen." You might try to silence it with hope. You might try to drown it in the busyness of life, but it persists. It does not leave, because it knows your truth. To deny your inner voice is to abandon the only compass that truly knows your Dharma, your true path. In the end, the very truth that we try so hard to avoid becomes the truth that sets us free. The longer you silence the wisdom within, the more suffering you will attract from the outside. So, reflect on this. Am I afraid to listen to this voice because it threatens the beautiful illusion I want to keep? Let the voice speak. Let it guide you. It will never mislead you, not like the hollowed promises of someone who cannot see your infinite worth. This leads us to the emotionally absent partner. You cannot dance the lone in a two-person song. The Buddha taught the importance of Sangha, a spiritual community. In an intimate relationship, your partner becomes your primary Sangha, your first circle of spiritual support. If they are emotionally unavailable, indifferent, or perpetually dismissive, then they are no longer in union with you. You are simply in parallel existence. When one partner consistently gives and the other withholds, the connection withers. But deeper than that, emotional absence signifies that one person has stopped believing in the bond. And if one has already departed inwardly, no amount of external affection can substitute for that void. A relationship is a living, breathing garden that requires the care of two gardeners. When you find that you are the only one tending the soil, pulling the weeds, and praying for rain, you are no longer in a partnership. You are a custodian of a memory. So ask yourself, am I the only one still watering this garden? If the answer is yes, then it is not an act of disloyalty to walk away. It is an act of profound self-respect. And finally, we arrive at the peace of letting go. The final, definitive sign that it is truly over is not pain. It is peace. We are taught by stories that endings must be a catastrophe, filled with tears, screaming, and fire, but often the most profound endings arrive with a deep, still silence, a quiet, soul-deep knowing that the path has reached its natural conclusion. When you no longer fantasize, no longer fight, no longer plead, when you can look at them and feel nothing but a calm stillness, you have reached the gate of liberation. The Buddha taught, you only lose what you cling to, and when you stop clinging, even endings feel like new beginnings. This peace is not numbness or indifference. It is the grace of acceptance. It is the sacred moment you are no longer chained by a desperate hope or a painful memory. It is the doorway where suffering ends and your freedom begins. Do not fear this peace. It is the reward of your awareness. Ask yourself one last question. If I were to walk away today, would my soul feel lighter or heavier? If the answer is lighter, then you are not losing love. You are shedding an illusion. Impermanence is not a punishment. To say you were not meant to be together is not a curse or a judgment. It is simply the sacred unfolding of karma. All beings meet for a reason. Some are meant to teach us love. Others are meant to teach us detachment. But all are mirrors reflecting our own path back to us. You were not abandoned. You were redirected. You were not unloved. You were simply unaligned. In Zen, what ends does not die. It transforms. So let it go. Let them go. Let the version of you that needed them go. And remember, if a connection causes more anxiety than joy, it is not your path. If your soul feels drained, it is time to choose your own light. Walk on, not in anger, not in blame, but in the quiet, luminous power of your own awareness. Because when you finally accept that you were not meant to be together, you open the door to becoming whole with yourself. And that, in the end, is the true love you were always seeking. If this journey into stillness and truth has resonated with you, I invite you to join our community of seekers. Subscribe to the channel to continue our walk together on this path of awareness. Please be sure to click the notification bell so you don't miss our future explorations. And in the space below, feel free to share a reflection. Your wisdom is welcome here. Until we meet again, walk in peace.